The students in this class are basically AP music theory students, which means they've had 1 year of theory, and from there on they've had a few months now of AP music theory, so they're mostly 10th graders. The main important thing is that we talk about root progressions. I mean, that's the theoretical part of this lesson. Through that, we like to bring it into a creative environment, and by that, how to apply this theory. Taking this theory and moving it into a language that they may be more comfortable with through the application, such as a Paul McCartney song. Welcome. I have a letter here from a pal of mine named Paul McCartney. Some of you probably have heard of him. Let's see what he has to say. Paul McCartney Enterprises. Dear Mr. Doyle's AP Music class, I do need a favor of you, if you would be so kind. I am coming out with a new CD, and I'm taking an old Beatles song from the 1960s, and I would like to add some 4-part background harmony to it. I scratched out the Roman numeral analysis for you to start composing with, along with a recording of the original song. Thank you very much, mates. With best regards, Sir Paul McCartney. So we're taking a chord progression which uses different kinds of root movements, which Paul McCartney wrote. We don't tell them the song because they would probably then, there's not a good climax at the end. So we harmonize it, we analyze it, we sing it, and they still don't know the song. So finally at the end, and we keep bringing back during the class, well, do you think Paul would like this? Do you think Paul would like that? And they grab a little chuckle at that. And then at the end, finally, you play the song and they sing on top of it. And you look at their faces and it's like, we're singing with the Beatles. What I do in an AP music theory class, which has 22 students in it, I set them up, and boys will be sopranos, girls will be basses, and they're all in their own row so that when we do 4-part harmony, they can actually know their part, see that, and we also switch. In terms of asking questions, the way it works is I'll start so I don't have to pick on certain students all the time who are very raising their hand and waving, I know it, I know it. So what we do is everybody knows that there will be next in line for a question. Everybody answers at least 2 or 3 questions every class. The next person generally is sort of anticipating my next question, so they're already thinking about that and their response is quicker. I also do open the floor to a question that's more less predictable response, so there are free response questions asked also. And really center the pitch. Ready, and 1, 5, 6, 4, 2, 5. We use numbers mostly when we're doing harmony exercise, scale degree numbers. So scale degree 1, 3, 5, etc. The reason we do that when we're doing harmony, as opposed to sight singing where we do solfege, do, re, mi, is that it's important when they're doing 4-part harmony, they know how chords resolve and how scale tones move in the various chords. So we'll often, if we're talking about a 4-chord, say, well, that's a 4-6-1. Scale degree is 4-6-1. When we're talking about common tones in the language, well, scale degree 1 stays on scale degree 1. So we create a language for doing the compositional component of the chorus, whereas if we're singing melodies, just sight singing them, then we'll use solfege. 3. Okay. See what we have here. Let's do a little tonicalization if I could. Let's get the key in our ear. Hum it, please. We do something called tonicalization. And that's where we establish a tonic, find out where you are, and then make every other pitch relative to the key. So if I give you do, I'll sit there and I'll go. And what they do is they start humming it, because they feel it in their chest when they're moving. And then I'll point to the different scale degrees and they'll try and pick the notes out of the air instead of reaching them by the scale. So they'll sing a scale up and then I'll play a note. And they'll have to define what that note is. Oh, that's scale degree 4. So picking notes out of the air. So we're always humming do whenever we're doing any exercise like this. Where are you in the tonal spectrum? I love it. The importance of having students actually sing, the first reward is hearing something they composed actually perform. When they're singing it and they're hearing intervals, often you'll see it during a lesson of this type, I'll take the alto and the tenor and just have those two parts isolated, which they don't hear that a lot when they're doing if they're in a band or an orchestra setting. In choir, they do that a lot. Could I have these two rows sing the bass and those two rows sing the upper part, soprano, to see if we hear any mistakes? All right? See if our ears are telling us. So here are our starting pitches. Gentlemen, nice and strong. Ladies, and I'm not hearing it. Let me hear the upper part. 3 and 1. Ready? And 1. So what I'd like to do is to hear the two different parts together. We listen for possible voice leading errors or problems in the voice leading, but it's important that they definitely hear. Everybody agree with him? Who agrees with Caleb? You got rousing support here, there's no question about it. Who disagrees with him? Who's absolutely uncommitted? You have two choices. This one's worth thinking about, and there's a reason. I hope everybody's picking up on it. Why is this note here?
Oh, well, it repeats. So wouldn't it?
What do you mean? Right. So.
Wouldn't it be better to go to the B and then it would go to the C when you?
Everybody see? That's exactly right. Look where it's got to go. It's got to go back to the C sharp. So I am going to recommend that with each lesson, we try and cover at least 2, if not 3 or 4, of the New York State standards in music education. 1, they should do some theory work, which is composition. Second thing, they need to do some analysis. Looking at a piece of music and saying, I can identify in this Mozart string quartet that that is a 5-6-4 chord, or it is this particular chord. And the third, and which I consider one of the more important, is a performance component. And by performance, that's where ear training would be introduced, sight singing, and keyboard harmony. This is what gives me one of the greatest thrills of what I do, is when they're actually, and I've had students come in and say, oh, I was listening to this song on the radio and I heard this dominant 7th chord and it was a deceptive cadence, and you just sit there and go, it's really hitting there. And they're really getting something from all the theory. And to actually hear harmony, theory could be an extremely dry concept if you just leave it on the whiteboard. It's dry, it's abstract. They're lollipops on the chicken wire, so to speak. So what we do here is we try and get them involved through the performance. In this school district, the big payoff at the end of the school year, is first, second, third, and fourth year theory students put on and produce all by themselves a composer's concert. We talk about building community in a music department in a high school. Having a composer's concert is beyond just hearing the compositions and the thrill of a student at a concert where their music is being performed. And they take it extremely serious. We have a history of, I think, 42 years now of composers' concerts, which I inherited from my predecessor. And they're just getting bigger and better, all produced by the students.